Hello and welcome. You're watching NewsX with me, Devika Chopra. Top focus is Manipur. The Committee of Tribal Unity has decided to temporarily lift its indefinite economic blockade on National Highway NH2 and the 24-hour total shutdown in Sadar Hills of Kangpokpi. The suspension of the blockade and shutdown came into effect at 2 a.m. following an agreement with authorities regarding the deployment of the 112 CRPF Battalion to the Saibol region of Lhungtin Sub-Division, Kangpokpi District. Despite this temporary suspension, the COTU has issued a strong warning, signaling the possibility of further escalation. In a statement, the committee warned that if the authorities fail to withdraw the remaining CRPF forces from the arena within 48 hours, they would initiate more aggressive forms of protest. This comes after protesters turned violent and attacked the office of a superintendent in the district, pelting stones and hurling petrol bombs. SP Prabhakar sustained a forehead injury after being hit by a projectile. The question, of course, arises is what will it take to maintain peace and tranquility in Manipur? My colleague Nibir Teka joins us from the ground. Nibir, take our viewers through the details, please. What is the basis of now the Committee of Tribal Unity, the COTU, lifting its economic blockade?
Well, the agitations from the civil society organizations led by the COTU, which is the apex body of the Sadar Hills in Kangpokpi District, has been going on for some time now. They have been demanding over the removal of the central armed forces that are stationed in Kangpokpi District. They have been alleging that the central armed forces have been biased towards their community, and as such, we have seen time and again that they have been protesting over this particular issue. This issue has always been there, and it gained ground after the removal of the Assam rifles in that particular area, and following which as the routine exercise, CRPF and other columns of the BSF and other central forces were deployed in Kangpokpi, and following which they have been demanding time and again over the removal of the central armed forces from that area. This demand escalated when the protest intensified. The protest has intensified following Christmas. We saw how on the eve of the New Year's, there was heavy protest in the very region where we have seen violence in the last 24 hours or so. The protest escalated in the Saibol region, and that led to the injuring of women who were protesting. Women have come out in large numbers, led by the COTU, as they call it, and these protests escalated, and we saw how women were injured. Following that incident, the protests have intensified, and we saw how the protest was divided into two columns. One column went to the PC office, submitted the memorandum. The other column went to the SP office and also submitted the memorandum. Now, there are two versions of this. The COTU claims that they were given assurances by the SP stating that the central forces will be removed from the area, and they waited till evening. We saw how after 7 p.m. there was protest and people barged into the SP office, following which there was a violent scuffle, and in that scuffle the SP got injured along with several other men and women in that scuffle got injured. Now the police have come out with a statement stating that the protesters tried to disrupt the area and to control, because they were pelting stones. The police had to control, and in that they had to use force to control the protest that had gone out of hand. And after that, we all know how the SP got injured and several other protesters got injured. In the last 24 hours or so, after the protest, there was also parallelly total shutdown of the Kangpokpi district and also an economic blockade of the national highway that goes via the Kangpokpi district. This national highway is also the lifeline of Manipur. Since this national highway was blocked, it caused a lot of inconveniences, because that is the particular highway through which goods coming from Assam side enters Manipur. And as such, because of the highway being closed, there were a lot of problems going about, which affected not just the native communities with whom they are now in conflict with, but other communities such as the Naga communities and other communities based in Manipur. That is the big problem because the highway was blocked, and now the economic blockade has been shut off. They have revoked the economic blockade. However, if you see the statements made by the leaders of the civil society in Kangpokpi, they are stating that this is a temporary revocation. They will again block the highway if their demands are not met. Now, what are their demands? Their demands have been the removal of the Central Armed Security Forces. Now, because of the CRPF, 112 CRPF being stationed there, they have come to a temporary settlement, but they are stating that if the remaining Central Armed Forces are not revoked, they will agitate again. Now, what that means is that again they will block the highway, and if the highway is blocked, the essential supplies entering Manipur doesn't reach Imphal Valley. So the entire lifeline is cut off, which affects all the populations living in Manipur, and they have threatened to intensify protests. Now the bigger issue here is the course of action. What will be the course of action from both the sides, from the Manipur government side as well as the community side, and they have to negotiate to find a solution.
Okay.
Lastly, the governor who has taken charge, the newly appointed governor who has taken charge, he has held a high-level meeting today, and in that meeting, he has discussed with the security personnel, especially the central security forces that are deployed there, to cooperate with the administration so that the matters can be de-escalated and a normalcy can be brought about in Manipur. Because as we know, that it's been more than 18 months and Manipur is still on the boil. There are still conflicts going on. There are still bans being declared there. So the governor is trying to de-escalate matters, and the next course of action will be how the matter is de-escalated and how the normalcy can be brought back to the state, and especially in this vulnerable peripheral areas near the hill and the valley. Back to you.
Okay, Nibi, we have some other news also that's come in. We've learned that extensive search operations are underway in the fragile Kangpokpi area. Security forces have ensured the movement of 183 vehicles on NH37 and one vehicle on NH2 carrying essential items. Meanwhile, 106 checkpoints have been established across Manipur with no detentions reported for violations so far. Nibi, take our viewers quickly through these details, please.
Well, the search operations and the combing operations have been going about ever since the violent clashes broke out. We have seen that the search operations and the combing operations have been intensified in the recent days following the protests and the violence that we have seen. And as per the data shared by the Manipur police, 183 vehicles that were plying on the National Highway 37 and some of the vehicles on the National Highway 2 carrying essential items, they have all been checked, and 106 nakas and checkpoints established across Manipur have been done, and these are important because the search operations are ongoing by the security forces so that the movement of arms can be controlled, because we have seen time and again that high quality, high grade weapons have been used in this violence. So the main agenda of this search operations done by the Manipur police, BSF, army, different columns of CRPF is to de-escalate the current situation in Manipur and to stop the flow of arms from as per sources which comes from the border to the miscreants or to the people who are using it on ground. So that has been the main agenda of this search operations.
Okay. At the same time, Nibir, we're learning through first-hand accounts from civilians, militant groups and security agencies in Manipur that are confirming the use of Starlink internet within the conflict-ridden state. The extent of its usage remains unclear, but reports do tell us that Starlink, which is owned by Elon Musk, has been used in Manipur. However, remember, Elon Musk had denied all of these allegations in the past. Maybe take our viewers through the details, please.
Well, there was a routine seizure of weapons by the Manipur police along with the Central Security Forces, and in that there were rifles and other ammunition found, and very interestingly, one wireless router was found. There was a photo that was shared by the Manipur police, and that router, that internet device, was found to be Starlink, owned by Elon Musk company. And following which the Manipur police had taken out the statement, and that statement got viral, to which Elon Musk had responded that no such active connections are there in India. But the fact of the matter is that Manipur is very close to Myanmar. This is the proximity of the violence that we are seeing in Manipur is very close to the border. So the movement of these kind of devices cannot be discounted. Their movement is very crucial, because these are the areas which have no access to internet, and to communicate internet is very crucial. And the pictorial evidence of Starlink being found there is also a cause of concern. And as per sources, there has been inquiry going on at the highest level, at the Home Ministry level, as far as the uses of these kind of devices such as the Starlink is concerned. And that inquiry is still ongoing on as to how these devices are being found in regions such as Manipur, which has seen violence for more than 18 months.
Okay, all right. Nibi, thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast with all of those details. I bring into the conversation now Major General G.G. Dwivedi, Major General J.K. Bansal and Major General Rajan Kocha. Major General G.G. Dwivedi, beginning with you, we've just learned that there was a high-level meeting that was held by the new governor who's been appointed, Ajay Kumar Bhalla. He held a security review meeting just yesterday, where it's not confirmed yet. However, reports online do suggest that it was suggested in that meeting that state police should look into using legal options like the National Security Act 1980, which has provisions such as detention for a year without trial against miscreants and troublemakers. Your thoughts on some of these suggestions that are coming forward on how to deal with the situation in Manipur?
Well, Devika, Manipur has been on the boil for last about 21 months, and enough water has flown through the Manipur river. Unfortunately, ironically, the situation has been mishandled both at the state also at the central level, and all that we are seeing is only band-aid solutions, because the real issue has not been addressed. At first place, I can say, having commanded my division in Manipur, that this problem should not have erupted, because Kukis and Meiteis have lived in harmony for hundreds of years, and this is basically a political gain, to make a political gain, that Schedule 6 format was introduced, and this problem has been created. Now, coming to the situation, what is on the ground? You see, today, both the communities are at loggerheads, and they have been, buffer zones have been created. And this problem in Kangpokpi basically was that there is a buffer zone between the Imphal district and the Kangpokpi district, and the central paramilitary forces were trying to remove some bunkers, because both the sides had dug in very deeply and they have been well armed. Now, there was a protest by the women, and there was some use of force, and that's why the protest actually got violent, and the SP also district was also wounded. Now, currently what is happening is that NX 37 is the lifeline from Dimapur to Imphal, and this can be interdicted, or this can be blocked at Kangpokpi or even at Mao, where the Tangkhul Nagas are there. And whenever the division commander, this used to be blocked very often, and that hurts the valley per se. And we had opened another route, NH 43, that comes from Silchar to Imphal. I don't know what is the status of the route now. So, coming to what the new governor is going to do, I have very little hope, because until you address the ground situation, these things are not going to improve. And the ground situation can be only improved because current state dispensation has lost confidence among the people until there is an overhaul of structure. And the structure is also very, very dichomatic, because central is controlling the security agencies, and state government has very little role to play. Therefore, this overlap is actually hurting the ground situation. And second point is the security paramilitary forces. They are seen as bipartisan, because as you see that currently the crisis erupted because the locals, Kukis feel that central military paramilitary forces are actually biased with one community or the other. So, yes, in conclusion, what I can say is that current state dispensation needs to be overhauled. We have to bring in a proper structure, and hope the new governor brings in a proper structure, and more importantly, the two communities need to be brought together. They have to be building a trust. The these NGOs and these what you call the committees, the tribal committees and the Metis committees need to be brought together. Until we address that issue, this type of situation will keep erupting, and we'll see this peace is very fragile. Any moment they can again come and get the blockade going, and that's going to hurt the valley per se. All I can say is that there is need for a tough action, and Central has to step in, because the way things are, I don't think they are going to improve. In fact, they will deteriorate further.
Okay.
Devika.
All right, Major Rajan Kochar, bringing you into the conversation as well. Major Rajan Kochar, your thoughts on the fact that some of the reports are now suggesting that Elon Musk Starlink is in fact being used not just by civilians but also, of course, obviously by militant groups in Manipur as well. What really then become the challenges to overall security in a day and age where internet access is so open and free?
See, there are two issues being dealt here. One is interference from outside, and interference like Starlink, what you just mentioned, and of course we see the American weapons also across the border coming inside. Now Starlink, I don't think we have got that communication technology to jam Starlink, because we can jam our own internets, but Starlink is working in Myanmar. So on the border with Myanmar, we have a large population of Chin cookies staying there, and the same ethnicity across the border. So even if you establish a main communication network of Starlink in Myanmar border, the connectivity can be obtained well 40, 50, 60 kilometers inside Manipur. And the importance of this Starlink or this communication is that whenever some kind of infiltration is taking place from across the border, and if you are able to establish contact with those militants who are going to infiltrate, and you will be able to provide them a safe your passage, because you see the border is quite open. You have only 15 regiments of the Assam Rifles, battalions of the Assam Rifles who are deployed on the border for the entire 1643 kilometers. And independent study was recently carried out for the border management, and it was said that the border requires border outposts at a distance of a minimum of 3.5 kilometers, which actually necessitates 470 border outposts requiring 32 BSF battalions. So now you see, against a requirement of 32 BS battalions, you have only 15 Assam Rifles battalions who operate from their company operated bases, which are some distance away from the border, and they actually send their patrols, and their patrolling is done. So this is not the way we'll be able to stop the infiltration, because of one aspect of fencing also came up. Fencing is only 10 kilometers so far in the entire border. So I don't think we'll be able to seal off this aspect as of now. And coming to this governor's meeting, you see, this problem of Manipur will not get solved through a military solution. It actually requires a political solution, and I agree with Jal Devedi, because we first have to get both these communities together. For the time being, we are only doing the firefighting. We are trying to arrest the already out of control situation. We have to carry out de-weaponization of the society today. Everybody has got arms today. Each party has got their bunkers and all. It's something like Syria.
Yes.
Number of actually groups are fighting with each other. So the government has to reassert the control. And 288 companies of the security forces, 29,000 are already in Manipur. My question to the government is that don't you think this is a sufficient force to control the situation in Manipur? So I think I would actually rest my case here. You are saying that the government needs to give a clear mandate to the security forces to restore law and order in the state. And a last point about the unified command. You cannot have the Manipur police and the paramilitary forces working in silos. You have to get them together on ground, because the J&K model has to be adopted here. And unless you do that, I don't think this situation will get under control there.
Okay, I leave the last word with Major General J.K. Bansal. Major General J.K. Bansal, at the meeting with the governor, it was also flagged by the CRPF and the BSF some of the violations of the ceasefire ground rules by the Pambe faction of the UNLF, which is the oldest armed Meitei insurgent group. Of course, there was also a peace agreement, remember, that was signed by the Union Home Ministry and the Manipur government on in November 2023. Several members of this group had also surrendered at that point in time, but there are certain factions of the group that continue to violate the ceasefire agreement, which has been flagged by our security forces. How should the government deal with this situation?
Good evening, Devika. General Dwivedi has very rightly said that yes, some kind of confidence building has to be done, and General Kochhar has told about the border security, that there should not be infiltration. As there is a problem, of course, which started with Meitei and Kuki as an ethnic problem, but it has gone beyond that. Beyond that, in the sense, there is the PLA, this People Liberation Army, which was established in 1978, and it has got a link with the Chinese PLA also, and it's very obvious the Chinese arms and drugs for Myanmar are fueling this particular things. Now, for last 21 months, the things has gone in a different direction, and now, as you know, there is the golden triangle for the drugs, and there is the drug economy also. It's so many factors are there. So at the border as well as within the Manipur, problem has to be taken into account. And of course, on 31st of December, this CM Viren Singh, he apologized for that. And on that very day, there was a problem which started with one of the women, they blocked the way to go to bunkers. And then it was, of course, Friday, the problem occurs where the SP was also injured. So this the problem has to be taken into a confidence building, and a lot of effort has to be made. I think, as has been told by General Dwivedi, that because of the political gains or some politics kind of things, this kind of situation has arisen. Otherwise, the Meitei and Kuki, they both were living in harmony, which has been disturbed. And once it has been disturbed, it will take a lot of efforts from the center as well as from the state to normalize it. And there has to be sincere efforts, keeping aside the politics, and a unified command, as told by General Kochhar, in J&K, similar kind of unified command has to be there, so that it can be, the problem can be resolved, and the further escalation or further deterioration should not take place. Otherwise, if the situation is left like this, it is day by day increasing. More than 250 people have been already died in this particular thing since May 2023. The problem is there, so now it needs to be controlled, and the center and the state has to work together with a sincere effort to control and to stop further deterioration of the situation. There you go.
All right, that's all the time that I have, but I thank all of our guests and experts for joining us to take this very important conversation on Manipur forward. With that, viewers, we step into a very short break.